So the topic for this panel discussion is sustainable plastics. I have a doubt. Uh, you know, you as a manufacturer, you as a user, know what is sustainable plastics all about, but we as a layman doesn't know about it. I mean, we have that perception, plastics ban kar do. So tell us how do you define sustainable plastics? Let's have Mr. Engineer on it first.
Basically,
Yeah, just one second. Yeah, it's on.
basically, I am a man with the plastics which are developed out of hydrocarbons. So when this topic came to me, I myself had to do some research and homework. But what I found is the globe is going to face a lot of challenges with the plastics which are used at present. But the applications where these plastics are used, most of these applications won't be replaced by the sustainable plastics, which I could find out. Second, the affordability I was seeing is our country or the globe even affordable? Some countries can afford, but our economy won't afford the cost of the sustainable plastics because the method, the routes which I read are at present looking very costly. But the globe has to move. The environments have to be protected. The lives have to be protected. And there are a lot of other ways also to be adopted, which I also read is that the plastics which we use at present are not recycled properly. So even if we do the recycling of these plastics, we can do a lot for the environment. Third is the way of disposal in India is too bad. So how we can control the disposal methods and recycling methods of present plastic. Because we have to first attend the challenges of what is being used and how we can make it favorable for the environment, sustainably. And then all companies who have capital, who are doing goods, should go into the research of sustainable plastics. But it's a journey which will take its own time, but it will happen at some point. I was one time studying the project of ethanol. I'm a chemical engineer. It was very close to me. And it was an alternate fuel, ethanol. But the way to make it and to make it cost effective against even the presently used fuels was not at all possible. So we need to change, but we need to make it affordable. That's very important for our economy. Till then, we'll work on how to save the environment with various regulations and controls, with what is used can be recycled to the maximum. That's from my end.
Mr. Rahman, your view on it.
So I'm an optimist here. There are 350 million tons of plastic produced in the world. Right now, only 1% is recyclable, or you can call it green. So there's a long way to go. But the thing is, the overall world is moving towards sustainability. And right now, there are industry bodies who are tracking all the plastic manufacturers. So there are 40,000 plastic manufacturers in the world. And right now, only 100 companies are being tracked. And the market cap of these companies, is going to shoot up if they are able to have solutions which are sustainable. So that's the way it's going to be. As far as the industry is concerned, I think at some stage over a period of time, maybe 10 to 20 years in India and maybe next 5-10 years in Europe, things will move to a situation where companies who are sustainable will get higher market value. You can see what's happening to Tesla. The other automotive companies are struggling, and Tesla's market cap is more than $1 trillion. So if you see the business side of it and you are sustainable over a period of time, I think things are positive. I'll give you one example of our company. We make those big salmon cages which are used for salmon farming across the world, and mostly in Europe and America. A few years back, through our innovation, we moved from nylon, which is a product which has a much higher carbon footprint, to HDP. HDP is obviously twice the life. And last 10 years, we have sold about 25,000 tons of HDP. And the kind of carbon footprint saving we have done is mind-boggling. It's about 1.35 million passenger flights, Bombay to Delhi. So if you can use innovation, and if you can drive innovation, I think there's a way forward. And I agree with Mr. Engineer. The point is very clear that we will reach there. But I think at some stage, the top management of the companies have to plan, maybe every year, every 2 years, what's to be done. After maybe 20, 30 years, even in India, people or companies who are not sustainable will not survive. That's the way I look at it.
Well said. Mr. Lime, your view on this?
Yeah, so from automotive I come from automotive background. So from automotive standpoint, I think automotive companies are quite cautious on usage of plastic and the sustainable plastic, obviously. So the kind of grades, the kind of material which get consumed in automotive industry is of recyclable nature per se. Because otherwise, as he said, that globally the companies are focusing, the major KPI of the CEO is on sustainability topic. So if the CEO has to drive the sustainability throughout his organization, then the usage of raw materials becomes predominantly extremely important. And I think automotive is quite cautious in this.
Here I would like to raise one point. You talked about cost. You are optimistic. You also said that CEOs are more inclined towards sustainability, but innovation comes with a cost. How we can make it affordable? For example, SMEs cannot afford that sort of cost incurred for innovations. So, and if I am right, the plastic industry is where we can see more of SME players are there. The major chunk is SME players. So, what is the message that you can give? How affordable they can make it, those innovations, and produce the sustainable plastics, Mr. Rahman?
So I'll just, I can talk about two solutions. One, I think where the government has to get involved. I think over the last many years, there's a concept of cluster manufacturing. So if you have, let's say, plastic manufacturers in a cluster, then you can control end-to-end recyclability of the products. From design stage to your product wastage, or maybe recyclability. I think that's the way the world is going to move forward, and probably the cluster manufacturing is one solution. And obviously, resin manufacturers, chemical manufacturers, all kind of manufacturers should be there in that cluster. And overall, as an industry body, maybe some forum should be created to be able to solve the overall problem of sustainability. And SMEs and MSMEs should get an example, should benefit of it. Innovation at some stage has to be shared with people.
Right.
You cannot just keep it to yourself. That I think is one solution. Second solution, I think, as I mentioned earlier also, there is a business side to it. We are getting pressure from our customers that, how green you are, how sustainable you are. And when companies see the business side of it, then obviously they invest. And the investment has to come from the top.
Right.
So I think one is the government support of cluster manufacturing. Second, I think, is overall the support that the customers will, give in a way by pushing companies or manufacturers to go for extended liabilities, so to say. And there's a business case for it. That's the way I look at it.
Okay. Mr. Engineer, what are your thoughts on it?
So basically, the smaller companies won't be too inclined to go in the innovations and all, but the bigger giants. Now it is happening. If you see the green, all the companies who joined green with their name are in the stock exchange considered as the greens. So similarly here also, as new products click in, new innovations come, the world has to move. So the giants like Reliance or the global giants have to step in first, and then the bigger users have to join hands to create these sustainable products.
Right.
But over the time, as Saab said, then next it will take time. We'll see this maybe not in my generation so much use, but next generation I think would be moving to it.
But I think if I give you an example, as you, as a founder and CMD of Astral, would be an ideal example when it comes to innovation. Because
we have one product where we are using less plastics and mostly minerals.
Right.
And it is classified as a green product. We are the first one making this product.
Right.
And it's a silent pipe. The plastic is minimal and the maximum is minerals.
Lovely,
Yeah.
lovely. But you talked about the, government regulations. I guess the government has already formulated the ERP rules to curb the plastic pollutions. You as a user, how do you see these rules? What are your views on these rules? And how do you see these rules are addressing the challenges of plastics pollution?
So as I said, in automotive, all the grades that we use or all the scrap or lumps or whatever that we generate is actually recyclable. And there are ways and means, and OEM actually is driving this now. Previously, we used to waste all this scrap, but now there is no scrap which is wasted. Every scrap has, reprocess grade available or reprocessing facility available. And I think there are SMEs in India also who are creating this kind of reprocessed materials which are available to be used for automotive grades.
All right.
So I think most of our material is getting reused.
So similar questions to you, sir. The rules are in place. What are the challenges then?
Actually, the point is, ban is not the solution. If you ask someone not to use it, unless and until there's education and people understand the importance of why they are being stopped, things will not change. So I think single-use plastic, which is out of the 350 million ton I spoke about, almost 25%, 90 million ton is single-use plastic. That's where I think some regulation is required and awareness of customers is required. As far as we are concerned, the point is, you would heard about ghost fishing. In the ocean, what's happening with ghost fishing. A lot of customers came to us and asked for a solution. So we said, okay, we worked with the technology team and we are able to make, biodegradable fishing net. And
Right.
these fishing nets in Europe and America are really huge. But nobody is willing to pay for it.
Is it the cost?
It's the cost, because if you're going to make something which is biodegradable, it's like a program. After 5 years, 7 years, it has to get biodegraded in the sea, in the ocean.
Right.
But nobody is willing to pay. So the point is the ownership. One is to do lip service. One is to pay for it. So if there's a pressure from the customer side that I'm willing to pay for something which is green, that's the way it is going to work. In our company also, we have a lot of waste. We are using it. We also been able to use this waste to create fuel. And all our internal machine, etc., are using that fuel. So there are ways to deal with the solution, but obviously we need a holistic solution. Ban is not a solution. You can't just,
Correct.
Government cannot stop.
Correct.
Because even if you go to market, people are still using plastic.
Correct. But do you see there is a pressure from the customer to come out with such innovations and supply such products?
So we face this pressure and we created a product. But these are European customers, but even then they are not willing to pay. We also created, bio-based, cages, big cages out of biofuel, sugarcane and biofuel. And we have supplied it in New Zealand and they are liking it. But then again, repeat purchase is not happening because
Okay.
the costs are high.
What about you, Mr. Engineer? Have you faced such challenges?
Basically, this country, the economy, the common man is not ready for anything to pay. आप एक कंट्री को देख के चीज़ सोचिए, आप यूरोप का, अमेरिका इज़ डिफरेंट.
Right.
ये कंट्री में जो चीज़ मिल रही है प्लास्टिक में, उससे सस्ता रिसाइकल बनेगा तभी बिकेगा, बाकी कोई नहीं करेगा. और गवर्नमेंट कितने भी पोल्यूशंस के नियम लाए, बड़ी गाड़ी को रिसाइकल कर सकते हैं, पाइप को कर सकते हैं, सबको कर सकते हैं, मगर वो जो आपका पैकेजिंग मटेरियल के थप्पे लगे होते हैं, उसका सिस्टम लाना ज़रूरी है. वो ऐसे ही थप्पे लगते हैं, हर विलेज के बाहर पड़े होते हैं. आप इतने अच्छे रणथंभौर नेशनल पार्क से निकलता हूँ जब मैं मेन गेट से, एक विलेज आता है, आप वहाँ देखो पूरा कचरा पड़ा है, इतने थप्पे लगे हुए हैं. मेरे को वही देख के होता है कि ये इतनी अच्छी एनवायरमेंटल जंगल है, उससे बाहर गेट से निकले 1000 फीट भी नहीं गए, 100 मीटर गए और कचरा पड़ा है. उसकी सिस्टम लाएगा ये देश, तभी जाके देश, पहले तो वो सब करना है, तब जाके सस्टेनेबल की बात तो बहुत देरी है ये देश के लिए. इसकी जीडीपी 1800 तो आदमी कमाता है डॉलर पर साल का, और वो दुबई कमाता है कितनी जीडीपी. तो ये पहले अपनी
The disparity is there.
It is a long story actually, and this story has to, anything you bring. I brought CPVC when it was ये बेटर प्रोडक्ट रिसाइकलेबल अगेंस्ट मेटल, लोगों ने बोला जीआई से सस्ता है तो हम लेंगे।
Yes, I heard that story. You know, I remember.
ये देश में कास्ट आयरन के सामने में अच्छी प्रोडक्ट रिसाइकेबल ग्रीन लाया साइलेंसियो, कास्ट आयरन से सस्ता है भाई, तो बात करो। तो दिस इज बेसिक्स हैज टू बी अंडरस्टैंड बिफोर इनोवेशन।
You talked about, you know, putting the pressure on the supplier because the OEMs are more going towards the recycled plastics. So what about the supplier? Are the OEMs getting proper supply in terms of recycled plastics?
See, in automotive, you don't have choice. I mean, the grade has to be perfect because it has to undergo impact test and crash tests and things like that. So you hardly have any scope for playing there. What I said is, previously the runners generated out of the part which is produced, there was no guideline coming from OEM to use them, but now they have allowed, you know, usage of that. So generally what you produce, you don't scrap, okay? You recycle it and you use it. In Europe and in North America, people have started making some reprocessed grades, which are parallel to the grades which are supplied by the tier ones who are making the material. Now, these reprocessed grades are also processed through recycled materials. And the compounders, they are using their brains to compound those grades. Now, this technology is also coming in India, and there are some producers of such reprocessed grades, and this is also becoming quite famous. So, I think sustainability with respect to plastics in automotive is good. Second thing is usage of plastic in automotive is also drastically going up day by day, because if we have to reduce the emission, then your weight of the car has to go down. So,
right.
if you have to have lesser weight cars, then more of usage of plastic is also coming in a way. So I think it's fairly addressed in auto sector at least.
But there is a glitch, the safety norms.
No,
So-
unless you pass that, you cannot use. So
Okay.
that is stringent.
Okay. So now let's move on to my next question. Considering the contribution of plastic products in different sectors, how the government can reconcile the conflicting demand for growth in the industry and addressing the issue of plastic pollution. Let's have Mr. Engineer on it.
It is the plants will go up and the pollution has to be
Exactly.
reduced. We have to make product because in PVC we are dependent. So it is really creating lot of issues. CPVC you are 100% importing. So balance of making the product and the pollution generated by it. I think the more of this lies in the hand of government, how they will deal with this. But today I'm not sure and I have no knowledge about it. But at least I've seen CPVC pipes work. Plants working, Lubrizol I've seen many plants. I think there, whatever is the waste can be completely treated properly. The HCl can be sold, the water can be treated. I'm not sure about the PVC part. But at the same time, balancing the pollution,
Plus
government
demand.
and we'll have to make the polymers capacity has to go up in India.
Right, right. Mr. Rahman, your take on it?
Yeah, so I think two things. One is that normally we are, let's say, 30, 35 years behind Europe or America. So whatever is happening there probably will happen after 30 years. So, in a way we have some catch up to do. Industrialization will increase, GDP has to increase. So the mindset change which is required is that, you need to treat waste as an asset and not as a liability.
Right, right.
So if you start treating waste as an asset and not as a liability, and you have a supply chain system to take care of it, I think you can do wonders. There is a lot of pressure from our customers to recycle the product that they use. Okay. And we said, okay, you are in Europe, how do we help you? We've been speaking to companies who said, okay, we can recycle the waste, we can make products, but who's going to buy? So maybe mats, small caps, or those kind of products. if there is a premium that customers are willing to pay for those kind of products which are recycled products, I think customers will have to pay for it, and then companies will have a entire value system around it.
Right.
That's the way to look at it. As far as government support is concerned, I think my recommendation will be the CSR spend that government is now mandating companies to do. Sustainability should be included there. That's the way I look at it. And a lot of time companies do spend money on many things, but if you say that some part should be for sustainability, how you're putting innovation in sustainability, how you're, as sir said, taking care of societal waste, that's important. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, but in the entire sustainability, the discussion that we had, the takeaway would be the awareness and the education for the customers. So how companies are doing, how you guys are doing the awareness and the education for the customer? Okay, this is a sustainable product, you should take it. Are you finding this kind of challenge with all your customers?
Yeah, first thing is that a product brought by somebody, we brought a silent product, somebody brought a silent product with no attributes, just from PVC. From third brings with something else, the fourth brings with something else. So the market, when you really today is also not ready, when you say this has this quality, this is sustainable, made from environmental safety. सस्ता क्या है भाई, उसका भी वो भी साइलेंट बोल रहा है, सस्ता क्या है, सस्ता क्या है. तो awareness of this market to pay for something like sustainable or which can help environment is not at all ready.
Okay.
People don't understand, even big builders, consultants, सब हम तो फेस कर रहे हैं रोज कि सस्ता क्या मिल रहा है, देखो इसने निकाल दिया, इसका प्राइस मैच कर दो ना, भले ये इसमें क्या होने वाला है, मुझे कहाँ लगा के जाना है. ये सब बहुत बहुत मेहनत है इस पे, जो आप बात कर रहे हो उस पे बहुत मेहनत है. आएगा सोलर, कोई जानता नहीं था, अभी हर घर पे लग
राइट, हर घर पे लग रहा है.
वो 20 साल लगे ना, ये भी आएगा.
Mr. Lime.
See, in case we are still too much dependent on import. Okay, when it comes to the automotive consumption or especially engineering plastics, we are heavily dependent on import. Maybe our consumption is too small still, that people are still not attracted to come here and produce. For polypropylene and polypropylene compounded grades also, consumption of copolymer in India is still low because we are still hovering around 3.5, 3.7 million cars.
Right.
We are not going any further. So unless we reach, at least 10 million cars level, all these producers will not be out of India and they will not start producing out of India. With the current supply chain constraints because of COVID, all automotive industry is actually going through nightmares with supply shortages and things like that. And we have to depend on, how the material is coming, and then only we can produce parts and supply. So together with ECU, semiconductor shortage, you also have the supply chain constraints going on. So that's the challenge that we have.
So how do we address this challenge of import substance, the major import substance, Mr. Verma?
So as far as I think sustainability of imported products is concerned, I think if you put pressure and if your source is, let's say, European or American, I think they are also under pressure. And they are under pressure to give you products which are sustainable. In our case, let's say, since our 70% business is outside India, the customers whom we meet are now asking about what kind of products you're making in terms of sustainability, what's your way forward. Those questions were not getting asked 5 years back. In India, still awareness is very low and people are not willing to pay. Even European customers or American customers are not willing to pay the premium, even 5%, 10%. But I think the discussion is in the right direction. And over a period of time, I think people will be willing to pay. India, as I mentioned, will take some time. It's not going to be happening very soon. But overall, from whatever we hear and when we buy from our imported suppliers, so to say, they are talking about sustainability. But still, even now, we are not willing to pay because nobody is willing to pay to us.
Right. Right.
If we get paid, we'll pay. So that's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
That's a cycle. That's a cycle. So we will pay maybe 20% premium for green product if I'm going to get 20% premium on my product. If I'm not getting, then it's a hit on my margin, which I can't take.
Right.
So that's the way it works.
So we have covered most of the topics and the challenges regarding the sustainable plastics. My last question would be, what is the current status of the industry in the areas of scale, technology, and innovation in relation to the global players, if we talk about? So how are we scaling up and matching the global standards? Are we matching the global standards, sir?
For my industry, we have long way to go. Safety perspective, we are catching up for sure, because the demand for safety in India, or the awareness for safety in India with respect to automotive, is reaching, that level for sure. But technology-wise, advancement-wise, we have a long way to go.
Mr. Rahman?
So as I mentioned, our competition is mostly from European players and who are always at cutting edge of technology. So we have to cope up with them. So in terms of innovation and design, we are pretty much there, almost maybe on par or maybe ahead of them. But the issue here is that, when you're talking about sustainability has to start from scratch. Basically, like if you look at plastic today, there are, LDP, SDP, PP, various kind of plastics. And if you have a product in which the three products getting used, it's very difficult to recycle it. So as Sir said, I think at the giant producers have to think about sustainability. And has to start from scratch, from the design of the product.
Right.
Then only it will be sustainable.
Right.
And I think in India, as a company, we are trying to pioneer the innovation and we are at the cutting edge. And overall, I feel that, a lot of companies who put focus on innovation and sustainability will have a longer run and will create a lot of value.
Thank you.
As the piping sector is concerned and Astral is concerned, we are developing products which have come first time in the world. We have made a composite pipe of CPVC, aluminum CPVC, and we are the only global manufacturers. Recently, we are exporting to United States and Mexico and sold here. So we continuously work on innovations. A few days back, we have made multiple layer PP pipe and fitting with lot of attributes to it, sound attributes and impact and all, and placed it at a level equal to the PVC SWR system.
Right.
So the whole market is shaken up कि ये कैसे आ गया और ये price पे कैसे product रख दिए. So innovations are continuously happening and thought process. मैं दो भी चीज़ है, सस्टेनेबल पे इतना काम नहीं है, तो थोड़ा बहुत करते हैं जो भी. मगर इंडिया की कोई भी प्रोडक्ट मैंने सीखी है इंडियन मार्केट की साइकी की, आप सबसे बढ़िया से बढ़िया लाओ, मगर प्राइस सेंसिटिव बाजार है.
That's true.
प्राइस के मैच करके चलो बस. आप नहीं तो मास को नहीं एड्रेस किया तो खत्म. क्लास में तो बहुत कम है.
Right. Right.
We work for masses and with innovations, lot of innovations.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. So basically, to sum up this discussion, the takeaways would be for sustainable plastic. We need to the cost should matter. We need to have a realistic cost for it. The innovations, and most importantly, the awareness and the educations. So thank you so much for joining me. Please have a round of applause for my panelists.